Okay, remember they're changing my voice. In this part, I'll be talking about Isaiah 30. This scripture is key to people who have sense. Okay, they know that I've proven my point with this scripture alone a million times over. And I'll tell you why. When we see the Bible talking about a sword of scripture, it's for a reason. When we see the Bible talking about a prostitute on a beast, it's for a reason. These ideas embody the message of what they're trying to say. It's the essence of a prostitute. Okay, is the prostitute riding the beast, right? It's somebody who is concerned about money, right? They're prostituting themselves for money, and some of them are rich prostitutes. So the essence of a rich prostitute, right? She's dressed in nice clothes and jewelry and so on and so forth, with a gold cup and so on and so forth. Okay. She's working with somebody, right? Prostitutes and pimps. Okay. She has a relationship with society. They didn't do a good job of cracking down on her, or they legalize it like in Vegas or whatever, right? So it's a prostitute. Okay. So if you saw somebody who's gay or a female who's a prostitute or a male gigolo, and they have satanic tattoos, okay, they're trying to embody that idea, right? They're trying to come into it wittingly or otherwise. And so it is with God and martial arts, okay? In popular culture, people see black people as deeper than other people. And the simple answer is that some of them, right? Some of them historically are is the simple answer. Okay, I'm not racist. I'm sure you all agree, and I'm sure you know it's a little awkward. But let's just keep going here. Okay. And therefore, the greatest embodiment of God is going to be in a black martial artist. Why? Because it's a sword of scripture. Why? Because of Exodus 15:3. The Lord is the warrior. The Lord is his name. Why? Psalm 18:42. I beat them as fine as windblown dust. I trampled them like mud in the streets. So it's somebody who really whoops them, right? Ali, Tyson, but better. Okay, better than Bruce Lee, better than Ali, better than Tyson, right? Really gives them a whoop and really defeats their enemies, right? Almighty, right? The might of certain soul brother black people. When you couple that with the fact that Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language, Jesus was in Egypt, Joseph was in Egypt, Moses was in Egypt, okay? When you look at this thing and you say that in Amos 9:7, are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, right? The Ethiopians, black people, O children of Israel. It is overkilled. Okay. So when I read Isaiah 30, keep that in mind. You're not looking at a Jewish gentleman or Jewish female, okay, with a club or with a spear or with a sword. That's not going to embody God. It's not going to do it. This is not witchcraft, right? It says in Revelation, outside the gates are the sorcerers. So it's not somebody with a whistle trying to take credit for an African martial artist or mulatto or whatever. Okay. Isaiah 30. See, the name of the Lord comes from afar, with burning anger and dense clouds of smoke. His lips are full of wrath, and his tongue is a consuming fire. This is a very deep, profound spiritual event. It needs to be conveyed by an African martial artist or someone of African descent like me, and I'm the only one really worthy, and no one will ever be worthy again. His breath is like a rushing torrent, rising up to the neck. He shakes the nations in the sieve of destruction. He places in the jaws of the peoples a bit that leads them astray. And of course, it's the colonial people, the globalists, the corporate state, right? So it's token minorities, rich whites, rich Jews, rich Asians, right? No offense to anybody. This is just the situation. I'm sure the masses of their people agree. Okay. So he places in the jaw a bit, right? They bit the hook. They took the bait, right? And the bait is the money. The bait is social norms. The bait is the threats of the corporate state, etc., right? And they rolled with it. Okay, it goes on to say in verse 29, and you will sing as on the night you celebrate a holy festival. Your hearts will rejoice as when people playing pipes go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the rock of Israel, right? God is the rock, on this rock, on God, not on Peter's flesh or on that kind of order, but on a spiritual order, the mountain of the Lord, the rock of Israel, God. The Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice, his voice being actions. We know that from Psalm 19, right? The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. They pour forth speech, but they don't speak a human language. No sound is heard from. It is a spiritual sound, if you will. It is a spiritual action, a spirit that declares it. So the Lord will cause people to hear his majestic spirit, his majestic actions. and will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. Again, with cloud burst, thunderstorm, and hail. In the first video of this series, I talked about how it said that the Lord has one who is mighty and strong, okay, like lightning, like a storm, like hailstones, right? That's what it's referring to, the top martial arts, me. Christ said, I'll come back on the clouds at the right hand of power, the right hand of the mighty one, okay? And it's that cloud burst. It's the warrior spirit. It's part of why people say the army of God, but they make it seem like some kind of fairy white supremacy, Jewish supremacy, LGBT-ish nonsense, but it's not. Goes on to say in verse 31, the voice of the Lord will shatter Assyria. With his rod he will strike them down, which goes back to Psalm 2, where it says, why do the nations plot in vain? He's installed his top martial arts ever possible on Mount Zion, right? It's the fortress of Zion. 2 Samuel 5. This is a martial arts city. It's a Royal African Falcon martial arts city. Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language. Okay, if Jews became white and whiter from thousands of years of going in Europe until they're so white they're hardly Jewish, okay, it's safe to say that those original people were more African-like. And whether there was an African in Nigeria or Kenya or Somalia or South Africa or wherever that embodies those characteristics more or not matters a lot, okay? Because God is looking to choose the righteous. He chose the Jews because they were Igbo-ish in the story, right? Nigerian-ish, Igbo-ish. Okay, they were kind of like a mighty Igbo warrior. Compared to the people in that region, they were impressed by those genes, and they says, look to the rock from which you were cut, the quarry from which you come from. Look to the source of that. And we see in Genesis 10, we see in Amos 9:7, we see that it is African, right? An African martial art source. The voice of the Lord will shatter Assyria. With his rod he will strike them down. Every stroke the Lord lays on them with his punishing club will be to the music of timbrels and harps, as he fights them in battle with the blows of his arm. So he's striking them. His punishing club, the blows of his arm. Okay, every stroke the Lord lays on him with the punishing club. Right? His arm is coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloudburst, thunderstorm, and hail. So it's overkilled the fact that this is a martial art spirit. Isaiah said, made it clear. He said, that is a martial art spirit. He's striking them. Transferable skills, right? Whether it's with his fist, and like in Proverbs 34, New Living Translation, or whether it's with a club, okay, or whether it's with his rod. These are transferable skills from God, okay, through the top martial arts ever possible. In fact, the last verse in Isaiah 30, verse 33 says, Topheth, top heat. Topheth, top, starts with the word top, has been long prepared and has been made ready for the king. For the king, its fire pit has been made deep and wide, with an abundance of fire and wood. The breath of the Lord, like a stream of burning sulfur, sets it ablaze. So you see that it's clearly that. And we see in Psalm 19, the bridegroom is the champion. The sun is the symbol of the bridegroom, who's also described as a champion. It's open and shut. I am Christ. Okay, keep in mind they changed my voice because they're trying to make white Jews and LGBT people seem more holy. That is like the whole purpose of the church and so many social clubs and so many groups out there.